Just let them see.
Right, I hear you. Okay, that's you know what? Both one that does is not a contradiction the other. You're 100% right. Seeing the action is definitely much more powerful than just a picture. But I just feel it's just the picture is also a constant. People constantly look at it.
But I believe that children do as you do, not as you say.
Right. Very good.
Nothing better than your children seeing you actions without preaching. The preaching you don't even need if you do the right thing.
Beautiful. You should know that Moshe Feinstein, morning, Dr. Navid. Moshe Feinstein has a beautiful idea. We say in the Ava Rabbah, saying b'libenu bina lavin laskir l'shmoa lilmod u'lelameh, to learn and to teach. So he said, is everybody a teacher? Is everyone going out and teaching Torah? So he says, yes. Your actions are teaching. Your actions. You don't say, you didn't say anything to them. You didn't tell them, but they look at you, they see you, and that's the great teaching.
Yes.
Beautiful. Okay. We are on Yud Amud Beis. We are on 10b. Let's see the Gemara. In the Art Scroll, it's 10b. Let's see what it is. 10b, most probably 3. Let's look at 10b2. 10b2. We said yesterday we started with Rav Huna. We're gonna focus inside the Gemara. Yesterday we spoke a lot outside the Gemara to try to clarify, to get the concept down packed. And now we're gonna focus inside the Gemara. Amar Rav Huna. You have it to the left side. Amar Rav Huna Rotzeh Shegala Le'ir Miklat. You have it, Jaime, on 10b.
Yes. 10b2.
10b2. Amar Rav Huna Rotzeh Shegala Le'ir Miklat. A Rotzeach that went to an Ir Miklat. So Rashi says he's not there yet. He's on the way. He just murdered somebody. He's on the way he's running to the Ir Miklat. He's running to the city of refuge. Or there was a verdict that he has to go to the city of refuge, meaning to say there was a court case to decide whether it's considered an unintentional murder or is it considered intentional murder. Is he goes to exile? Does he get killed? And the verdict was he goes to exile. So he's running to exile. He's running to exile. It's not that he was in exile and he violated his sentencing and he left to exile. He's on his way to exile. He's running to exile. At that point, if the Goel Adam, if the family member finds him, and we said yesterday, who's this family member? Who is this Goel Adam to redeem the blood? Some say it's any of the 7 close relatives of the person, brother, sister, father, mother, son, daughter, wife, husband, wife, or it's the closest relative, the one who's going to inherit. That relative that's around to inherit, that is the Goel Adam. So the question, there's some relative is considered the Goel Adam. It might be many relatives have the ability to be a Goel Adam, might be a specific relative. We'll have to see more about that. But there's someone called the Goel Adam, the one who's out to avenge the blood. So if he does that before the guy reached the city of refuge, v'hargo patur. The Goel Adam this opinion says he's patur. He does not get death. We don't kill the Goel Adam for doing this, for murdering the guy who killed his relative. He's patur. Even though it would seem that he's not supposed to kill him at this point, because the guy didn't. The murder was unintentional. The first murder, he did not violate. He did not violate his sentencing. But at the end of the day, if under the great stress of his situation, that his relative just was killed, he goes ahead and he kills that guy, the Torah does not impose death penalty for such a person under such a circumstance. That's the opinion of Rav Huna.
Rabbi,
Sava,
I know there's no death penalty in that opinion, but is there any punishment at all?
it doesn't seem to be any. I mean, it would seem that heaven would punish him in a certain sense for doing something wrong because he should not have killed him. But it would seem that the courts down here will not do anything. What do you think? Because I mean, and why? So Dr. Navid is asking, why doesn't he get lashes? I would say the same point is why he's not going to get killed for doing this act. It seems someone to explain because he's under such level of stress that have what happened. So in a certain sense, that he's not in his right mind in a certain sense, and the Torah will not impose a punishment for someone the same way if a person is retarded and if a retarded person kills somebody, he will not get killed for killing somebody because he's not the same way a minor who kills someone who's under 13 does not get killed for killing somebody. So too, a person who is in this level of stress, the Torah will not, I mean, this is how we could explain it, would not kill the person. But we also, you want to say something, Jaime?
Yes. Isn't, I mean, we're calling it stress, but isn't this really anger and revenge?
It's anger, it's revenge, but it's connected to the great pain and I mean, I called it stress. Maybe there's some other.
Isn't revenge a midah that we don't believe in? Taking personal matters into your own hand for revenge purposes, and also, isn't anger one of the worst midot that you could possess?
Yes, anger is one of the worst midot. We know the first murder in the Torah came as a result of anger, depression. Cain was depressed and he was angry at Havel, and that's how the first murder took place. And but here, so again, the Torah does not want him to do it. It's forbidden for him to do it. You're correct. It's a terrible midah, but the circumstance that he finds himself in, it's this type of circumstance. The Torah will not, even though he should not do it, he should not do this act. The Torah will not kill him. The court will not kill him if he does such an act under such a situation. So I have over here, let's see one of the commentaries say, the pasuk says, Ki yecham levavo. The pasuk says that he's very hot. His heart is very hot. So it's very common, very natural. It's very natural that a person would get very heated up, and when his relative would be killed, and as a result of that, even though a person should overcome his nature, people have to control their nature. But even though, and it's forbidden for him to give in to his natural feeling under such a circumstance, but for the courts to impose a punishment under such a situation, this is how some want to explain why the courts down here don't give such a punishment for the person, because in a certain sense he's not equipped with the it's a type of thing that we're going to say it's hard, it's more difficult than and this type of situation, the Torah is not going to impose the capital punishment on somebody. But you're right, it's a slippery slope, because people might say, okay, he doesn't get killed for this. Everybody will rationalize and maybe say that, you know what, Again, no one's giving him a right to do it. He's forbidden to kill at this point. But the question is, when a person under certain stress, certain duress, did an act, are we going to kill him for the act or not? So, good morning, Michael. Welcome back. Good morning, Morris. So that is how some want to explain the reason for the law. Jaime, it's a tough explanation.
I'm having trouble because there are no consequences for letting your anger take hold of you, and anger is one of the biggest midot that we have to conquer.
That is true, but again, we all know there's two types of consequences. There's a consequence from the court down here, and there's a consequence from the court upstairs. So we know that he's not going to get away with it. Meaning the guy who acts this way and he allows his natural feelings to overtake him, and he doesn't curb it, he doesn't control it, Hashem is going to take him to task for it. But nevertheless, not everything is taken to task by the court down here.
Okay.
As we see today, people, if someone in the Jewish community, would do something and the courts are not able to impose certain things to punish the person for acting certain ways, but God's going to, let's say a person, chas v'shalom, commits one of the worst crimes called adultery. The Jewish courts down here have no power to do anything to the guy. Even if the guy was warned, even if the guy, we can't kill the guy. If a guy commits adultery, in the time when we have the courts, we could kill the guy if he's warned and he does it intentionally. Today, he commits adultery, he doesn't get killed by the courts down here, but he's going to get it. God is going to, that's why we had an amazing Gemara before. The Gemara said that there was a guy that killed intentionally, but there was no witnesses. There was a guy that killed unintentionally and there's no witnesses. So nobody was taken to task down here. The courts didn't kill down here. The courts didn't send them to exile. So what does Hashem do? So Hashem puts them together that they should come to a hotel, and the guy who killed unintentionally goes up the ladder, and the guy who killed intentionally is on the bottom of the ladder, and the guy who killed unintentionally will fall down the ladder, will kill the guy who killed intentionally. That guy will be killed, and the guy who killed unintentionally will now go to exile because there are witnesses on it. So many times God will bring that thing that beforehand it looked like they're getting away with it. There was no witnesses. And the guy who killed intentionally, there was no witnesses. But you know what? He got killed at the end of the day. He didn't get killed by the court. He got killed some other way. The guy fell off the ladder and killed him. What do you say, Michael?
I like it. The one thing I'd say is that
This is Michael Abadi, Jaime talking. Yes.
the one thing I'd say would be that kind of might make somebody think that if you see somebody die intentionally, that he was a shot.
We should never judge anybody. We should never. If we see someone fall off the ladder, we should not. We always have to look at people. If something happened to somebody, the guy fall off the ladder and kill somebody, we don't say that the guy who got killed was the Rasha. We don't say that. We could say that was the years that maybe that was allotted to him, and he lived, and that was it. Whatever reason, we don't understand everything. We should never look at somebody such a happened and say interpret it in the negative. 100%. So there is. We're going to see in the Gemara coming. We're going to see in the Gemara coming up. There is two opinions. When the guy leaves the Ori Miklat, the city of refuge, and the guy who killed unintentionally steps out and violates it after he was admitted into the city of refuge. The court gave a ruling and he entered the city of refuge. He came and now he steps out. The pasuk says he's supposed to stay there till the Kohen Gadol passes away. If he violates that, there's an opinion that says it's a mitzvah for the Gol Adam to kill. There's an opinion, but the halacha is not that. The halacha says he has a right. He has a right to at that point, but not that only when he's out. Once he comes in, he can't touch. If he comes in, See, right, but also it's another point to remember. In that case, if the guy was sentenced to exile, that means there was something he could have done better. Nobody is sentenced to exile if it was a complete accident. So therefore, in a certain sense, there was a small amount of negligence. And because there was a small amount of negligence, so that small amount of negligence is something that, plus he violates his sentencing. You can understand why there could be a possible right or mitzvah for the Gol Hadam at that point to kill when the guy violates his sentencing. But we'll see more. We're gonna have a Mishnah. We're gonna see more when we get up to that.
For that to happen, we go around us waiting for the start in a second. If that is the case, I'm just waiting there. So sure, the blood is loyalist.
Yeah, but I don't believe he's gonna be waiting there because there's other things to tend to than wait for the guy to leave. But most likely, the guy is not going to leave the city of Miklat. It's just like today. Today, I know.
Not everybody's gonna go and kill him.
Right,
Not everybody just take a life.
right. Not everyone's equipped to do that. That's what you're saying.
Right, from the family.
Right.
If somebody accidentally a little bit of negligence doesn't mean that person in the family is doing it. Just because they have a right to go kill it doesn't mean that they're gonna go kill them.
Right, right. Okay, let's see the Gemara. So the Gemara says, on Yudam Beis, you have it, Mike? Yudam Beis, we said, Amar Rav Huna. Rav Huna says, Roseach shegala le'im miklat, u'matzo gol hadam. And the relative finds him go patur. He's exempt from going from being killed for killing the guy who killed his relative. He's patur. The courts will not kill the Gol Hadam, the relative, for killing him while he was on the road to go into exile. Why? Sava, he holds, this opinion holds, below a mishpat movet, when the Torah says there's no judgment of murder against him, begol hadam hu diktiv. That's referring to the relative. That means the Torah says you need to prepare the road, make sure there are signs for the guy to run to the city of refuge, because the relative might kill him. And if the relative might kill him, and if the relative kills him, even though he has no right to kill him while he's running to the city, but if the relative kills him, below a mishpat mavet, the relative will not get killed for killing him. And because the relative will not get killed for killing him, there's a good chance the relative is going to go after him. When a person knows that he gets away with something that he's not allowed to do, just like we see today in the city of New York, when the people see that they could get away with doing the wrong thing, they do the wrong thing. So the fact that he knows, and obviously here, he knows, the Gol Hadam knows, that he will not get killed if he kills the guy on the way to the city of refuge. He knows that. V'lo ein mishpat mavet, he will not get killed for it. So therefore, there's a great concern that he's going to go after him, because he doesn't have that great deterrent. He's allowed to is when he left the city of refuge, when he violated the sentence. On the way, he doesn't have. So what'd you say?
After the court ruling,
After he has a free pass. So the way many of the commentators understand the Gemara here is that the moment he kills and he runs to exile, the Gol Hadam has no right to touch it. Even after the ruling of the court to say you have to go to exile, the Gol Hadam should not touch him. He should not, because why? He was sentenced to exile. It was an unintentional murder. Why should the Gol Hadam be allowed to kill him? Say it again. He's allowed to if he violates the sentencing of this Ari Miklat. He leaves once he's in the Ari Miklat, the city of refuge, and in Israel itself there were 42 cities of the Leviim and 3 other cities that were designated for you. There's 45 cities in the land of Israel. Not too far. You don't have to travel too far.
That's what I'm saying.
This was a small place.
I'm saying that by the way, stop over there, you know, how these trips go. Go to one city, say if everybody's traveling, going.
Again, if the Gol Adam killed him anywhere, the Gol Adam will not get killed for it. But he's not allowed to do it. He's and not only he's discouraged and he's not allowed to. I mean, and I'll prove you the case. A guy, we don't even know if the guy killed intentionally, unintentionally, or maybe with a total accident. Right? And the Gol Adam, of course, the Gol Adam can't kill him then. Maybe it was a total unintentional, a total accident. Maybe the guy ran up. What? Again, there's two cases. I mean, there's two time periods. Did the court rule it? Meaning, the second the guy killed, the guy's running to Ari Miklat. There's no ruling of the court. He runs right to the Ari Miklat. And from the city of refuge, the court brings them out. He brings them out. So during all that duration of time, the Gol Adam is not allowed to kill him. But if he does kill him under such circumstances, he will not get killed for it. That's the first opinion of the Gemara. The second, even before the ruling, and after the ruling, before he enters, before he reaches the city of refuge, he also should not kill him. Two Torah scholars.
And they're telling you, don't kill him. You shouldn't kill him.
You're right. That's what the Torah scholars tell him. They're allowed to kill him. And he killed him. Yeah. You know what? In life, right. Right. So, a lot there are a lot of things in life. Yeah, what do you say, Mike?
No, I thought the opposite. I thought right away, you don't know. If he was a complete accident, you don't know what's the guy could be completely innocent.
Is very hot right now. You just killed someone close.
And we encourage.
We discuss again. We discover we don't want him to kill him. We don't want, but it's the question. There's the two opinions. Some say the court or the court or the Gol Adam or the right. Some say the Gol Adam will kill him. Who was intended to kill him? If the court made a decision. First, I want to say hello to Mike and Ariel who have joined us on the screen.
Good morning, Rabbi.
Good
Morning,
morning.
Michael.
Good
Morning,
morning,
Ariel.
Good morning, Ariel.
Right. They're telling the guy, don't kill him. It was unintentional murder. Right, exactly. And nevertheless, you know what? Dr. David, here's the case of the other opinion of the Gemara. The other opinion of the Gemara is, if the Gol Adam kills at this point, we're going to kill the Gol Adam. We're going to kill him because we're going to warn him and we're going to say, it was unintentional, the murder. You don't know that don't kill. First of all, you don't even when he just committed the murder, we didn't know what happened. Just don't kill him. And if after the court rendered the decision that he has to go to exile, so if it was unintentional murder, don't kill him. And we're going to warn the Gol Adam. But I don't think that's the halacha. I think the halacha follows the other opinion. Let's see it in the Gemara. The Gemara says, Meitive. I'll ask you a following question. So the first opinion of the Gemara is, V'lo ein mishpat mavet. To him, there's no judgment of death. Who's the v'lo ein mishpat mavet? That is the Gol Adam. The Gol Adam will not get killed. The relative will not get killed if he kills the one who murdered his relative on the way to exile. He will not get killed for it. Therefore, we need to make sure to make it easy for the person to reach exile, because we don't want him to get killed, and there's no deterrent for stopping the Gol Adam, so to speak. Just doing the right thing is the deterrent over here, and not always is doing the right thing the strong enough deterrent in life. Talk a little louder, Micah. Everyone wants to hear your holy voice.
Is there a source for this opinion?
Yes, his opinion is based on the verse Below ein mishpat mavet. To him, there is no judgment of death. Who is the him that will not get death? So this opinion says Velo ish b'mavet is referring to the Goel Hadam. The Goel Hadam, the relative of the victim, will not be judged for death if he kills. As a result of that, there's no deterrent for him, and therefore got to send the guy to exile as soon as possible. Get him, make it easy for him to reach exile, because the relative might come after him, because the relative will not get killed if he subsequently kills this guy. However, Meitive, we have a different opinion. Says no, the Loei Mishpat Mavet is not referring to the Goel Hadam. It's referring to the one who committed the unintentional murder. The Loei Mishpat Mavet. He's not deserving of death because he did not hate the guy that he killed. It was unintentional. Therefore, prepare the road. Let him get there because he's not deserving to get killed by the Goel Hadam. And if the Goel Hadam does kill him, we're going to kill the Goel Hadam if he kills them on the way to the Ir Miklat. He said, he did not hate. Right, he did not hate him in the past. The end of the Rashi learns the end of the pasuk is referring to the one who committed the murder did not hate the guy. But the question is, what does it mean v'lo ein mishpat mavet? To him, there's no judgment of death. Who is the him is not judgment. Oh, so that's what the next question of the Gemara is going to say.
But can't you also say that the guy who killed the Goel Hadam also didn't hate him?
Right. That's how the Ritva learns.
Right.
That. But look at how the Gemara is going to read it. So the Gemara says Meitive. I'll ask you the following question. Anytime the Gemara opens the Meitive, it's a question. V'lo ein mishpat mavet. To him, there's no judgment of death. B'rotzeach hakotav medaber is a pasuk referring to the one who committed the first murder. He is the one who is not. It does not have a judgment of death against him because he did it unintentionally. Ata omer. So first thing Gemara says, b'rotzeach hakotav medaber. It's referring to the murderer. The one who committed the murder is not subject to death because he did it unintentionally. Ata omer b'rotzeach. You say it's referring to the Rotzeach. Oh, eino ela b'Goel Hadam. Maybe the pasuk when it says v'lo ein mishpat mavet, maybe it's referring to the Goel Hadam. He is not subject to death if he kills the one who committed the murder. Maybe he's the one who is not subject to death. So the Gemara says, like Mike said, Kishu Omer lo sone lo mitmol shilshon. And some take the text, it's going on the pasuk vav. Kilo sone lo mitmol shilshon. He did not hate him. Mitmol shilshon. Who's the guy who didn't hate him? The guy who committed the first murder didn't hate him. So Havi Omer b'rotzeach medaber. The pasuk who's saying v'lo ein mishpat mavet, the person, because the pasuk says he's not subject to death because he didn't hate. Who's the guy who didn't hate? The guy who committed the murder. So since he didn't hate, so therefore the guy who committed the murder didn't hate him. He's not subject to death because he did it unintentionally. So therefore the pasuk is only saying that the Rotzeach is ein lo mishpat mavet. The Gemara is now saying that the end of the verse clarifies what the middle of the verse is referring to. The end of the verse states, he did not hate him. Who did not hate who? The one who committed the murder did not hate the guy who the victim. It was unintentional. So if you say, if the pasuk is talking about the guy who committed the murder, so when it says in the same pasuk, and he is not subject to death, that means the guy who committed the murder is not subject to death. Meaning the guy who did unintentional murder. But if the relative at this point, the Goel Hadam would want to kill him, he maybe would be subject to murder because he has no right to kill him. So the Gemara is asking, this Breita seems to is saying that the one who is not subject to death is the one who committed the murder. But it's not telling us that the Goel Hadam is off from murder. It's not telling us that if the relative prematurely kills at that point, he will get off the hook. So that's the Gemara's question on the Amora. We have Amora is the later rabbi. Right, the Amora said Patur. Rav Huna is the earlier rabbi. Early rabbis, is the later rabbi. Later rabbis don't argue on the earlier rabbis. Meaning if it's a total different time period. There's the Amoraim and there's the Tanaim. The Tanaic period, the Mishnah, the Breita, was one period of time. The subsequent Gemara that afterwards, the Amoraim opinion, period was a later time. The Amoraim don't argue on the Tanaim. So Rav Huna will not argue on the Breita. So that's the Gemara's challenge. I'm challenging Rav Huna's opinion. How do you, Rabbi Huna, the great Rabbi Huna, say that if a guy kills someone and he's unintentionally, he's running to exile, you're saying that if the Goel Adam, the relative at that point kills him, he will be off the hook from getting killed from the court because you interpret the pasuk a certain way? Good morning. Good to see you, everybody. Welcome back, Mr. Sun. Morning, Kevin. You're telling me that's the explanation? I have a Breita that says that no, the Goel Adam is not referring to the relative that gets off the hook. It's the person who committed the murder is off the hook from death. It's earlier.
But Rabbi, the Goel Adam, according to this Breita, he should be subject to death penalty.
Yes,
because he's killing from hate.
He's killing from hate, and he's killing prematurely because the guy did an unintentional murder. He has no right, and he did not violate his sentencing. He didn't step out of exile, and therefore you're subject. The Goel Adam will be subject to murder, to get killed. That's the way he won't go against the Breita. So that's the Gemara's question. He would not go against the Breita. So the Gemara says, you know what? He has another Breita on his side. So therefore, he could go against Breita number 1 if he has Breita number 2. Yes.
The whole premise of the Breita is that the end of the pasuk explains who it is, right? That the Soneh who is talking about the original killer.
Right.
The original killer did not hate.
Did not hate the person that he killed. The original killer.
He's exempt.
Right. He's exempt from death. Right.
So well, I have two questions. One is can't you explain it and Goel Adam didn't hate? You could also say the Goel Adam didn't hate the killer, right? Before he killed his brother, he didn't hate him. So you could explain it like that. That's one question. And the second question would be that don't we learn that he's exempt from different places, not from here? So what is this trying to teach us?
Don't we learn that who's exempt?
We learn that the killer is exempt. It's not because he didn't eat him, but unintentional.
Okay, very good, excellent. So you're going to very good. So what you're going to look at your second question. Look at how the Gemara is going to use your second question right now. Look what the Gemara says. The Gemara says, "Hu dama ki haytana." He Rav Huna has another Tana on his side. What's his Tana? The Tanya. We learned in the Breita. Below a mishpat maveh. It says to him, there's no judgment of death. The Goel Hadam Makkos v'dadim. The pasuk is referring to the Goel Hadam. The one who is the relative is not subject to death, right? Why? How do you know that? You're saying it's referring to the Goel Hadam, or is it referring to or is it referring to the Rotzeach? Is it referring to the one who committed the murder is not subject to murder? But maybe the Goel Hadam, the relative, if he kills at this point, will be get killed. You told me he didn't hate him. When you tell me he didn't hate him, that means that who's that? Who's the guy who didn't hate? Was the original murderer. Because you told me he didn't hate him, so therefore automatically, if he didn't hate him, good morning, Adam. Look who's here. Yeah. The crowd will be even better with you joining us, Adam. How do you like that? So by you telling us, Kilo Soni Loho Mikol Shoshom, when you told me, Adam was a student of mine many moons ago, when he was an undergrad in NYU days. So the Gemara says, Kilo Soni Loho Mikol Shoshom, if you tell me he didn't hate him, if he didn't hate him, that's why he's not subject to what? To death. If a guy killed someone without hate, that's called, your words, unintentional. Unintentional, is he subject to murder? No, he's not. You won't kill a guy for killing unintentionally. So why did the Torah say v'lo ein mishpat movet?
Right.
Why did the Torah need to tell me he's not subject to murder? But if the Rotzeh, but if he did it unintentionally, automatically when a guy kills someone unintentionally, what's the general rule? Unintentionally is never obligated death. Correct? The only time we can kill someone for something when you do intentionally. So why does the pasuk use the words v'lo ein mishpat movet? There's no extra words in the Torah, no extra letter. So therefore it has to be v'lo ein mishpat movet is talking about someone else. The Torah will never kill anybody who kills the court will never kill anybody who killed unintentionally. This possibility may be the Gol Adam. That's the discussion. The guy, the relative, if the guy violated the sentencing. But the point the Gemara is saying over here, and we're going to end with this. The Gemara is saying that since you already told me that the guy is not subject to death because he killed unintentionally, he didn't hate the guy. So what are the words saying? V'lo ein mishpat movet, telling me he's not subject to death. We know he's not subject to death. So therefore, it's referring to the Gol Adam. That the Gol Adam is not, the relative is not subject to death. The relative was hot as a result of his relative got killed. And if he goes ahead and he kills the one who killed the relative unintentionally, since he's not subject for murder of the court will not kill him for that if he does it, even though he's not allowed to kill him at this point. But since he's not subject to death, therefore you have to do what you can to ensure that the guy who committed the unintentional murder has an easy way to get to Ari Miklat, easy way to go to those cities of refuge. Therefore, have signs, prepare the road, put bridges, clear make it easy for the guy to get there. I want to wish everyone a great day and look forward to seeing hopefully everyone tomorrow. So that's how the Gemara concludes. So the Gemara says, that's what the pasuk is talking about. All the best, and the honor that Adam Sasunis has joined us today. Every minute, every word of Torah is a mitzvah, Adam. You know, they clocked John F. Kennedy at 200 words a minute. He spoke a little fast. If you ever hear a tape, John F. Kennedy spoke fast. 200 words a minute, 5 minutes, we got 1,000 mitzvot. How do you like that? Yes. All the best, everybody. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you very much, everybody. You too. Thank you.